Right now, your body may be producing 5 times the insulin it needs to pair because of foods your doctor called healthy.
And that excess insulin is silently storing fat around your organs, inflaming your arteries, and clouding your brain.
Today, I'm going to show you the 7 biggest offenders of FOM and what to eat instead, starting tomorrow morning.
And in those 21 years, I have watched patients destroy their metabolic health eating foods their doctors told them were safe. Not sugar, not junk food. Foods with heart-healthy labels, whole grain stamps, and low-fat endorsements on the package.
Your annual blood work checks glucose, but glucose is a late-stage symptom. The real driver is chronically elevated insulin.
And chronically elevated insulin stiffens your arteries, raises your blood pressure, and silently reshapes your heart's function over years.
After 60, your insulin sensitivity drops significantly. The same food that caused a small spike at 40 causes a massive one now.
Most people don't know that modern wheat flour breaks down into glucose faster than table sugar does inside your body. The glycemic index of 2 slices of standard whole wheat bread is 71. A can of Coca-Cola is 63. Think about that. That spike hits your pancreas. Your pancreas sends out insulin. Insulin that, in excess, promotes sodium retention and vascular inflammation.
Researchers estimate that adults over 60 require 30 to 40% more insulin to clear the same glucose load as a 35-year-old. So when I say these foods spike insulin more than candy toe, I mean it mechanistically. And food #1 on this list will surprise you. I'm going to walk through all 7, from the mildest offender to the one almost every person over 60 eats every single morning.
Every single food on this list carries a health claim, a label, an endorsement. That's what makes them dangerous. You trust them.
This content is for educational purposes only. Always discuss dietary changes with your physician, especially if you have a metabolic condition. Let's start at number 7. This one is in almost every shopping cart in America carried, and almost no one questions it.
Number 7, store-bought whole grain bread. Not white bread, the brown loaf with the whole grain stamp that your doctor approved.
The problem isn't the label, it's what's inside. Modern wheat flour, which is predominantly composed of a starch called amylopectin A.
Amylopectin A is digested so rapidly that it raises blood glucose par and therefore insulin rose faster than nearly any other carbohydrate you can eat.
2 slices of that heart-healthy whole wheat bread hit your bloodstream faster than a Snickers bar. The whole grain label changes nothing about that.
Margaret, 68, a retired nurse. She'd eaten whole wheat toast every morning for 22 years. Fasting insulin, 19. Normal is under 8.
Her glucose was completely normal, her doctor never flagged anything, but her insulin had been chronically elevated for most of those 22 years. That sustained insulin elevation meant 22 years of her body retaining sodium, stiffening arterial walls, and slowly raising her resting blood pressure. The fix? Real sourdough made from long-fermented whole grain or sprouted grain bread. The fermentation process breaks down the amylopectin significantly.
Number 6. This one might be the sneakiest of the group cow because it comes packaged as a health routine, not a food.
Fruit juice and commercially blended smoothies. Even 100% juice with no added sugar. Even the green ones sold at health food stores. When you eat whole fruit, fiber slows glucose absorption. When you juice it, you strip the fiber and deliver concentrated fructose directly to your liver.
A standard 8-ounce glass of orange juice contains the fructose equivalent of eating 4 to 5 whole oranges cov, with none of the fiber.
Your liver processes that fructose load rapidly, converting excess to triglycerides and driving an insulin response that your standard blood test will not catch.
Elevated triglycerides from excess fructose are one of the most reliable markers for cardiovascular risk, and they appear long before glucose ever becomes abnormal.
Most people who drink juice do it in the morning, fasted phalanx, which is when your liver is least equipped to buffer a large fructose load. The alternative? Eat the whole fruit. Limit to 1 piece per meal. Berries are significantly lower in fructose than oranges, mangoes, or grapes.
Number 5 has a very specific label problem, and once you see it, you will never read a yogurt label the same way again.
Low-fat yogurt. Specifically the flavored, low-fat varieties that line every grocery store refrigerator with names like Strawberry Harvest and Peach Fusion. A single serving of popular low-fat yogurt can contain more added sugar than 2 Oreo cookies. The low-fat label makes people eat more of it. That sugar arrives rapidly, without the fat buffer that full-fat dairy provides. In someone over 60, it creates a sharp insulin spike within 20 minutes.
The protein is fine, the problem is everything that was added to it. What makes this particularly insidious is that the protein in yogurt is
Rule of thumb: if a yogurt has more than 8 grams of sugar per serving, it is adding to your insulin problem, not helping it. The fix is simple: plain, full-fat Greek yogurt. Add your own berries. More protein, no insulin spike, the fat that makes you feel full longer.
Number 4 is one of the most profitable products in the wellness industry and one of the most consistently misunderstood ones metabolically.
Granola bars, energy bars, natural snack bars, the category marketed to health-conscious adults as the smart alternative to candy bars. Check the label on a standard granola bar: 18 to 30 grams of sugar, often from honey, brown rice syrup, agave, or dried fruit concentrate. A standard Snickers bar has 27 grams of sugar. A popular natural granola bar in the same calorie range has 24. The Snickers is more honest. The oat base in most granola bars is processed and toasted, which destroys the beta-glucan fiber that would otherwise slow glucose absorption in whole oats.
The damage compounds because granola bars are typically eaten alone said, without protein or fat to buffer the glucose hit. Pure insulin spike, no protection.
I've had patients tell me they switched from chocolate bars to granola bars as a healthy change. Their insulin numbers got worse, not better.
If you need a packaged snack, look for bars with at least 10 grams of protein, under 8 grams of sugar, and no syrups in the first 3 ingredients.
I'm talking about the people who are already trying to be healthy, Fez, because they switched to it precisely to avoid regular sugar.
Agave syrup, the natural sweetener that became the darling of the wellness world in the 2000s, and that I wish had never entered the market.
Agave syrup is 70 to 90% fructose, bros, significantly higher than high fructose corn syrup. Fructose does not spike your blood glucose directly. This is why it was initially promoted as diabetic friendly. But that framing misses everything that matters.
Fructose goes directly to your liver. In large amounts, it overwhelms hepatic processing, driving triglyceride synthesis and promoting non-alcoholic fatty liver development. A fatty liver is insulin resistant. An insulin-resistant liver demands more insulin to process its glucose.
Elevated triglycerides from chronic fructose consumption directly correlate with cardiovascular risk in adults over 60 in studies measuring fasting lipid panels, not just glucose.
The word natural on a label tells you nothing about what it does inside your body after 60. Fructose from agave is metabolically indistinguishable from fructose from corn syrup.
And if agave can cause this much damage, wait until you hear what number 2 is.
Sweets. If you need a sweetener, a small amount of pure stevia or monk fruit extract does not spike insulin. Neither does Ceylon cinnamon, sports drinks, and electrolyte beverages, the ones marketed for hydration, heart health, and even blood pressure management in older adults. A standard 20-ounce sports drink contains 34 grams of sugar lace, almost entirely as sucrose or glucose-fructose syrup cress.
The real problem, most adults over 60 who drink these are not exercising at an intensity that requires glucose replacement. They're drinking sugar water marketed as medicine.
That liquid sugar absorbs faster than almost anything you can consume. It bypasses nearly all digestive buffering and hits your bloodstream as a direct insulin demand.
Liquid sugar consistently produces a higher and faster insulin spike than the same amount of sugar consumed in solid form have, because there is nothing to slow gastric emptying. I had a patient, Robert, 71, a retired electrician, who was drinking a sports drink daily. His insulin was 21. The cardiologist had never checked his insulin, had never mentioned that the sports drink was contributing to the exact cardiovascular inflammation the cardiologist was treating.
Electrolytes without the sugar exist. Mineral water with a pinch of sea salt, cream of tartar, and magnesium delivers real electrolyte replenishment without any insulin consequence.
But I want to be honest with you. Everything I've covered so far is secondary. The real offender, the number 1 food on this list, is different. It's not just spiking your insulin, it's doing it daily, in the first 30 minutes of your morning, at the exact moment your body is most vulnerable.
Number 1, oatmeal. Specifically, instant or quick-cook oatmeal, the kind that millions of seniors eat every morning believing it is the healthiest breakfast they can have.
I know how this sounds. Oatmeal is the most endorsed food in cardiovascular nutrition. Every major health organization has recommended it for decades. That endorsement is the problem.
Instant oatmeal is pre-cooked, dried, and flattened. The physical processing breaks down the beta-glucan fiber that would otherwise slow glucose absorption in intact rolled oats.
Glycemic index by oat type. Steel-cut oats, 55. Regular rolled oats. Instant oatmeal.
A glycemic index of 92 places flavored instant oatmeal higher than white bread, higher than most candy bars, and nearly as high as glucose itself at 100.
You eat it fasted. Your liver has been running on glucose reserves all night. Your insulin sensitivity is at its most fragile point of the entire 24-hour cycle. That morning spike set your insulin baseline for the entire day.
7 a.m., you eat instant oatmeal. 7:20 a.m., blood glucose spikes. Your pancreas floods with insulin. 8:30 a.m., glucose crashes. That next carbohydrate causes another spike, which causes another crash, which causes another craving. By lunch, you've had 3 or 4 insulin spikes before noon.
Repeated morning insulin spikes over years drive sodium retention, raise resting blood pressure, and promote the arterial wall thickness.
Let me tell you about David, 73, retired teacher. He'd eaten instant oatmeal every morning for 30 years because his doctor told him it was good for his heart.
His fasting glucose, 97, completely normal. His fasting insulin, 23. His HOMA-IR.
He had been treated for high blood pressure for 8 years. Nobody had connected the morning oatmeal to the insulin to the sodium retention driving his hypertension. The beta-glucan cholesterol benefit that oats are famous for is real, but it requires intact, slow-digesting oats. The Heart Healthy stamp on oatmeal packaging refers to cholesterol data, not insulin data. The organizations granting those stamps do not measure fasting insulin in their studies.
Steel-cut oats cooked slowly, eaten with protein-derived eggs or full-fat Greek yogurt, behave significantly differently metabolically. The processing and the context matter enormously.
But let's talk about what you can actually do. Because I don't believe in giving you a problem list without a practical framework to address it. The 2 most powerful insulin protective interventions I use with every patient who walks into my practice are both free, require no medication, and work within days. The first is a change in the order you eat your food. The second is something you can add before your 2 largest meals cross, starting tonight. Food order is one of the most underappreciated tools in metabolic medicine. Research published in endocrinology journals consistently shows
the principle: eat fiber first. Salad, vegetables, anything green. Fiber coats your intestinal walls and slows the rate at which glucose enters your bloodstream. Then eat your protein. Protein triggers a modest insulin response but slows gastric emptying, meaning the carbohydrates you eat next will be absorbed more slowly. Carbohydrates come last. The same meal, the same foods, produces a measurably smaller insulin spike when the carbohydrates are eaten at the end rather than first.
Studies in metabolic medicine have measured 46 to 73% reductions in post-meal insulin when subjects ate in this order.
For breakfast, if you're going to have toast, eat a few bites of eggs first. If you're having fruit, have it after protein cut, not before, not with the first bite.
David, the patient from earlier pile, made 2 changes: steel-cut oats instead of instant, and eggs before the oats. The second tool is apple cider vinegar. 1 tablespoon in 250 milliliters of water, consumed 10 to 15 minutes before your 2 largest meals of the day.
Acetic acid, the active compound in apple cider vinegar, inhibits an enzyme called alpha amylase, which is responsible for breaking down complex carbohydrates in your small intestine.
When amylase activity is partially inhibited, carbohydrates are broken down more slowly, absorption is extended over time. Research in endocrinology suggests reductions in post-meal glucose response of 20 to 34% when acetic acid is consumed. Important, apple cider vinegar must be diluted, never consumed undiluted, as it can erode tooth enamel.
1 tablespoon in a large glass of water 10 minutes before lunch and dinner. Not a cure, not a substitute for better food choices. A meaningful, practical buffer.
Together, food order and pre-meal vinegar panna, these 2 habits address the mechanism directly, without eliminating any food group, without medication, without superhuman discipline. Now let me explain the claim from the title. Why these 7 foods are more damaging than candy, mechanistically knows, because it matters how you think about this.
When you eat candy, you know it's candy. You eat it rarely, you feel guilty, and you are unlikely to base your morning routine around it for 30 years. When you eat foods with a heart-healthy label, you eat them daily, confidently, in larger quantities, because
a candy bar eaten once a week creates 52 insulin spikes per year. Instant oatmeal eaten every morning creates 365. And most of these foods are consumed in the morning in a fasted post when insulin sensitivity is lowest and the pancreatic response to glucose is at its most aggressive.
Every one of these 7 foods drives the same downstream consequence: elevated insulin, sodium retention,
and your annual glucose test will not catch any of it. Your fasting glucose can remain completely normal while this process has been running for 15 years. This is not a failure of your willpower, not your character. It is a failure of information. You followed the advice you were given. The advice was built on incomplete measurements. Here is what I recommend you do this week. 1. Replace instant oatmeal with steel-cut oats, or switch your breakfast anchor to eggs and plain Greek yogurt. 2. Read every label in your kitchen that carries a health claim. If the sugar content is over 8 grams per serving, reclassify it internally as a treat, not a health food. 3. Start eating fiber and protein before carbohydrates at every meal. You don't have to change what you eat, just the order in which you eat it. 4. If you want to test apple cider vinegar, start with 1 tablespoon diluted in a large glass of water before lunch. Track how you feel for 2 weeks. 5. And this is the most important, ask your doctor to run a fasting insulin test at your next appointment. Not just glucose, insulin, home IR if possible. A fasting insulin below 8 is where you want to be. Between 8 and 14 indicates developing resistance. The good news, Hell, and this is what 21 years of practice have shown me, Hell, is that insulin resistance is one of the most reversible conditions in metabolic medicine. You do not need a prescription. You do not need a strict elimination diet. You need better information about what is actually happening inside your body after 60. The foods on this list are not mistakes. They are the result of decades of nutrition science that measured cholesterol and calories while never asking what happened to insulin. When you measure the wrong number, you optimize for the wrong outcome. And millions of people spent decades eating carefully too, while the real driver went completely unchecked. That is not a personal failure, it is a systemic one. And the fact that you are watching this means you are already changing the information you're working with. Insulin controls your fat storage, your blood pressure, your brain, and your aging. Get the foods right, and the mechanism corrects itself. I want to know, did any of the 7 foods on this list surprise you? Drop the number in the comments. Which one did you not expect to be there? If brain fog or memory issues are something you're dealing with, not just blood pressure, I covered the insulin-brain connection in full in the video right here. New videos every week. If you want to understand how insulin affects every system in your body after 60 Pro, subscribe and you won't miss them. Everything covered here is for educational purposes only. Always consult your physician prior, especially before changing your diet or requesting additional tests. Your doctor checks your blood sugar. That is not enough. The number that tells the full story is insulin PON, and now you know where to start.